Hey family, it's me, it's Leontini, Black History 365, and today I'm just going to try to have a casual conversation with you about our communities and how our communities, Black, White, Latino, Asian, whatever your community is, but specifically I want to share about, of course, the Black community because it's Black History 365 and that's what my little show is about. So today, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is in our community, respect for the elders. When I was growing up in Piedmont and in Kaiser, I grew up in both communities, but primarily in Piedmont, we had to make sure that we followed the rules of our household and the whole community. So not only were your parents in charge of you, but your neighbors were, the church people, the teachers, everyone was in charge of you. And in our community, especially on Water and Paxton Streets, and of course all of Piedmont, but we always had to say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. And if there was a lady or a gentleman in our community, didn't matter if they were black or white, we had to address them by either Mr. or Miss. It was never, hi, Dawn, how are you doing? Hi, Sarah, how are you? It would either have to be Miss Sarah or Mr. Dawn. And I just use an example here of two of the people who were my neighbors, Miss Marthy, who was right directly in behind us, and Mr. Joe Hill, Miss Martha Washington, and Mr. Joe Hill. And I interacted with them every single day, and they were wonderful people. But I would never, ever think about calling them by their first name. If I did, I would be corrected, and then they would tell Susie, my mom, or Russ, my dad, and then I'd be corrected again. So we just never did that. And I'm saying this to say sometimes we are not taking the time to teach our children respect. And I notice in certain communities, kids call their parents by their first name. They disrespect the elders in the community. They don't think they have wisdom, and I think that's a huge mistake. And in our community, it's still the same. I taught my daughters to address adults in a fashion that gives them respect, always, and to always say please and thank you. So we have to make sure that our children are taught manners and to respect their elders. My father said that while during the integration process, that African Americans or Black people, we're always the ones that are involved in the conversations. While we're talking, the other communities are building. And he said before long, they're going to be building and taking away our schools, our churches, our homes, our land. That's true. We don't have black schools. We have churches, but some of them are besieged by people trying to acquire their land. It happens everywhere. So we have to be very careful. We can talk, we can have conversations, but let's learn from the past. And I'm specifically saying to the Black community, we have a lot of distractions right now with racism, from the top to the middle to the bottom. Racism is a problem that's created by other people. We're not the problem. We're the target. And so in order to change the shift, we can talk, we can have conversations. It's always good to have conversations. But at the same time, while we're talking, we also need to be building. And the stool for building, again, and I use things from my childhood and from my own experiences. I'm 60 years old, and so I've learned a lot of lessons. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've also done a lot of good, like most of us have. But the stool in building for any community, but in particular, those of us who are descendants of the enslaved population that built not just the United States of America, but really built the world, are jobs. You have to have a way to make an income, whether you work for someone or you build your own business. So we need to have always proper education, proper skills. And when I talk about education, I'm not talking about going necessarily to an institution of higher learning to get a college degree. I'm speaking about opportunities where you could go to college if you like. You could go to a 4-year, 2-year, get a trade, get a craft, do an apprenticeship, go into the military, just to get a career in order to be able to make a living. The other thing that during the time I was growing up, our parents and grandparents had land. They purchased land, they purchased homes, they built homes, they purchased the land, and they built their homes. Like my grandparents in Petersburg, West Virginia, they never had a mortgage. And one of the reasons why is that during that time you got the land and you and your family and your friends, you built your own home. You know, the meaning of mortgage is death because you keep paying and paying and paying. We know that. So maybe there's a lot of wisdom in purchasing your land and building your home. So some of these time-tested values and things that happened in the past, we might want to bring to the future. And your family. And your family can also be your friends, the people who nurture you, who care about you, who love you. And there are some people that don't care about you, that don't nurture you, that want to hurt you. You don't need to have those people in your life. Don't do anything to harm them because karma will come and get you. If you do something to harm other people, just don't involve them. That's happened to all of us. It's happened to me with people who were supposed to be our friends and people who were supposed to be family. It happens. It's life. Just move on. And your faith. Whatever your faith has to be. But your faith has to be good. It can't be to harm people. You can't go to church and say, oh, I believe in God and God is good, and then come out and go on the job and mistreat people and call people names and mistreat people and don't promote them or hide information from them. That's not faith. That's being mean. It's being cruel. That's not faith. Faith is helping yourself and helping people. And I know that in my family on both sides, whenever I've been down and out, I've extended and asked for help. And when other people in my family have been down and out and they've asked me for help, I've helped them. So we have to help one another. I have 2 friends whose other families were in the real estate business. And those friends shared with me that their fathers not only would loan money from their real estate business to people in the Black community to help them buy their first house, but they would make their first mortgage payment for that family in order for them to get a home. That's what they used to do in the old days. That's what people still do today. If you need a down payment, if you need some information to help you, some knowledge, that's what we're supposed to be there for, to help each other to grow, to help the next generation. It is our responsibility to always, in our community, to protect each other. Your word was your bond in a community and your family reputation. It didn't matter in my community, Piedmont or Kaiser. People would always ask you, who's your family? What's your family's name? Oh, you're Russell's daughter. Oh, you're Sue's daughter. Oh, you're Laura's granddaughter. Reputation and trust was built on your family name. And so that was why it was important that your family would say, don't go out and ruin my good name. I have built a good name over there at the Piggly Wiggly. I have good credit there. You make sure that you keep our credit good over there or our reputation good there. So your word is your bond. And if you fall off the wagon, get up, ask for forgiveness, and move on. In our community, because we didn't have a lot of wealth in our community, which a lot of communities didn't, you had to rely upon each other to help out. And so I'm just giving an example of some of the people in our community. I talked about Miss Martha. Miss Martha Washington owned her own property, and she had a duplex. And so she lived on one side and she rented out the other side. And then she also was the best laundress and the best person in the community who could iron. So people hired her, and that's how she made her money. She was an entrepreneur. And then my father, who worked at the mill at Westvaco, he was the bank. He was even our bank. So I saw people come in, borrow money from my dad, and in our little laundry room in the back, he had a list of the people who owed him money, even us. So, on my list, it'd be like 79 cents. And I'd say, I am your daughter. Why do I owe you 79 cents? And, and if you could never scratch your name off the list. If you scratched your name off the list, you were done. No more loans. So once you paid your loan back, he would scratch you off, and then you could come back the same minute and get 79 cents. So my dad was the bank, but he felt compassion, because when you grow up poor, you don't want to see other people suffer. So I saw a lot of people come, borrow money from my dad, and they paid it back. And he'd say, pay me back when you get it. Whenever you get it. It's a year from now, and it's 2 years from now, and it's 5 years from now. No interest, just pay me back. So he always had money coming in because he was always, loaning, giving like small loans to people. And then my father's friend Jerry, he was a great auto mechanic. And so if we ever needed to get our cars fixed, back then you could fix your cars. Now you can't, they're computerized. But then the mechanics, they would work in the backyard and fix your car. So he'd say, go to Jerry. And so we went to the people who we could trust, the black people and the white people in our community. And then at the end of the day, we talk about Social Security and retirement and building these nest eggs, and that's all well and good. And I'm not telling people not to do that. You should. But my grandmothers, one was 103 when she passed away. The other one was 94. Neither of them had any type of Wall Street investments. They lived their lives day by day. And then when it was time for them to go back, what we call home, they just went to sleep. They were old. Their little hearts just couldn't go anymore. So they transitioned to the place among the ancestors. And I know they're watching over me. I know it. I feel their presence all the time. And I know they're guiding me. So the Social Security is family. Growing up in many families, in mine, we didn't put people in nursing homes. The nursing home was that little room in the back where your uncle was. You only saw him on a holiday. Come out at Christmas time and say, Grandma, who's that guy back there? Oh, that's Uncle Charlie. We take care of Uncle Charlie. He doesn't have a wife or kids, so we take care of him. That was what was the Social Security net then. So now we have some money that we give to people to help them out. Grave sites, we couldn't be buried everywhere. African Americans, they wouldn't let us. So we had grave sites, family graveyards. My mother's family, and it exists today, has the Gator family grave site or cemetery in Petersburg, West Virginia. And that's where her siblings and her father, not my grandmother, they're buried there. Because that's what you had to do. You had to take care of each other. So this was a little lengthy. Don't have any books for you today. But I just want you to think about those things from cradle to grave, how we can take care of each other and not to be bamboozled by these distractions that seek to divide us. Let's have conversations, let's be honest, and let's be good to each other. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.